A lot of people ask me, how did I get to where I am? And it's not a very linear path. And so I've been reading a book called Einstein by Walter Isaacson, who did the Steve Jobs book and The Innovators. And it's a very good book. But what inspired me was in 1905, one of the three major documents that Einstein wrote, one of them was on Brownian motion, random walk. And it started to think about it as that was my career. It basically, there was equal probability that I was going to go multiple different paths. And the key, though, was when I keep thinking about how do you become successful, how do you really innovate in this business, it was how do you make sure you're prepared for all these different things? And one of the ways I do this is I do read these types of books like Einstein, et cetera. And in fact, unfortunately, I become one of the Book of the Month Club guys. I get all excited about what I just read, and so I try to apply everything the next month. And the people that work for me are always now concerned about what book I'm reading next. And they really were scared when I was reading Shades of Grey. If we could, do I flip the? Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing here. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that you don't know when you're in this business where your career is going to be going. And the key is, how do you prepare yourself for all of those different approaches? And so when we look at this, I started looking at another thing. Okay, this is before everybody's born too. This is 1985. This is Ice Climber was the name of this incredibly elaborate video game. But this, I think, ironically, what happens is that pieces of ice come to you horizontally, and you try to break through to the next level, and so you keep pounding your head against the ice. But what I started thinking about is, I go, this is my career, is that the more things I did to make myself horizontally successful, going to school, taking on jobs in finance or engineering or operations or production, suddenly it broadens you to the point where you've gone long enough on this ice curve where something pops up and you get to go to the next level. And so all I can encourage you is get as much experience as you possibly can get to allow you to be able to grow and prosper and go up vertically as well as broaden yourself horizontally. Because when you broaden yourself horizontally, actually, you really make yourself excited. It's something that's exciting because you're able to talk about in multiple languages. And because you're able to talk in multiple languages, you're able to communicate at a company-wide level. And when you're able to do those type of things, you become very, very effective. So again, I've always wanted to show this. It's actually a really crappy picture, but it really does portray how careers go. So when you get a chance to get an MBA, or you get a chance to be maybe doing something in, well, maybe not quality, but something in engineering or production or something like that, do it. Take the opportunity. Okay, speaking of taking the opportunity, this is something that if you have the opportunity to do it, is that I was fortunate enough to be on the incipient phase of the creation of the next generation of launch vehicles, the EELV program. In fact, Clay was doing the same type of thing on another program for Ariane, but we were actually growing up in this next generation of launch vehicles. We were actually on the cutting edge. We were the ones responsible for this. And by able to do that, you got to see the entire creation of a next generation of launch vehicles and create history. And to give you an example is Dan Collins, who was the COO of ULA, was on this program. Dan Hart, who's the CEO of Virgin Orbit, was on this program. It was a program that we all got to cut our teeth on. It was a program that we were able to see it all the way to its creation. And it's just an amazing thing, and I just can't, and By the way, this industry gives you those types of opportunities, and when you have a chance, take it. Okay, so this was an example of being prepared. This, by the way, that's a picture of Eric Daler. Eric now works at Lockheed Martin. At the time, he worked with me at Boeing. Young superstar, brilliant guy. Always was thinking of out of the box, how could we do certain things? How could we do things? And he kept pushing me, saying, Jim, I really want to do something in the small satellite world. And I said, well, Eric, I go, one of the things that we have to do is make sure that it meets requirements that the customer need. So he went off and through these sets of requirements came up with, his whole team came up with this approach for an all-electric satellite. And this all-electric satellite was rather innovative. It allowed us to be able to put 2 satellites with incredible capability inside the fairing of a SpaceX Falcon 9. And because of that, we were able to reduce the launch cost by a factor of 2. And because of that, suddenly we had something that was rather revolutionary. And it was literally just on, I mean, I was giving him internal research and development funding just to do this type of thing, get the technologies going. The objective was to have a $75 million satellite. I will tell you, yeah, we set that goal and we got a little bit higher than that. But the point was that ironically, we were in Paris in a bar. That's not ironic, that's factual because that's typically where I'm at when I'm in Paris. But what happened was I was meeting with people from ABS, believe it or not, my company now, and Tom Choi, who had my job before me, came in and said, you know, I'm tired of everything from Boeing. I know everything Boeing does, and I'm just not interested. And because Eric was working on this IRAD program, I threw out, I go, well, Tom, we actually are creating a $75 million satellite that actually is be able to be dual stacked on a SpaceX launch vehicle, and it has 7.5 kilowatts worth of payload capability, and all of a sudden he goes, I'll take 6. Well, they didn't take 6, but on this depiction of a napkin, they actually signed up for, they and SatMex signed up for 4. We didn't even have anything built. We didn't have a mock-up. We had nothing. But we now had 4 satellites, which would allow us to have an anchor tenant for a program, and we created a 702 SP program out of IRAD, a napkin, and a little bit of luck. And those types of things, I mean, this created the all-electric satellite. Now, I think virtually almost every satellite now has electric propulsion on it. But this was the precursor, the actual creation of this type of thing. So, I mean, again, that random walk, that serendipitous activity, but being prepared for that serendipitous activity by having the ability to have things in place, things being thought of, is how these things happen and how people move forward. And so, in fact, Eric's career has actually gone, gangbusters since then, and but it was one of those things where he really wanted to do this, and by the way, 99 of these things don't work, but this one did, and it's why you do these types of things. It's why we're in the business again. So what happened to me? Okay, so I was actually a summer hire. I should be able to memorize my own charts, but I was a summer hire at McDonnell Douglas, okay, in the days where, circa 1978, there was no child labor laws, I was 2. But it caught my inspirations. I got excited about what I was doing. They gave me some opportunities to excel, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And that's another example, is that they had this issue on an MX missile that their elastomeric environmental protection material was delaminating. And they gave it to this idiot summer hire and go, why don't you try to figure it out? And I was so excited. I called everywhere. I found out that there was a certain Mooney viscosity issue that we had to worry about. And I solved the problem. And fortunately, well, I didn't solve it. I actually found some people that gave me the answer, and then I looked good. But the fact of it was, caused them to go, well, maybe he can do other things. And it got me my first job. There I am. That's my first picture as an engineer for the first year at McDonnell Douglas. And from that, we went on to do the great things. We got the EELV program. That allowed me to have more responsibility. I was actually the program manager for the first phase of the program. It was really exciting, considering that it was something I didn't think I would ever be doing. Then there's always, with the good, there's also bad. And then we actually had an issue. The EELV program, there was a certain person on the program that, quite frankly, used Lockheed Martin data. The program, Boeing was penalized. It actually was a pretty big negative mark on my career being part of the program. You're kind of just by affiliation, you got impacted on that. But it allowed me to move over into the satellite world. And when I got into the satellite world, suddenly somebody was foolish enough to make me president of the commercial satellite business. Then I decided that I was going to do something in the engine business, and so I went to Aerojet Rocketdyne and got to do some exciting things there. And then, ironically, that thing that I did a while ago with the two satellites, the ABS business, suddenly somebody thought I was reasonably okay there, and I became the CEO of ABS. So, again, it's random walk. It's not just Forrest Gump being there in the right place in the right time. It's making yourself be in the right place at the right time to enable these types of things to happen. And again, it's a wild ride. I recommend it to anybody. Anybody that's been in this community, it's something that gets to you. When I was doing my MBA program at USC, they would go around the table, and there were a lot of people that made a lot more money than I. But I couldn't think of anybody that had a cooler job than I did. And everybody that's in this industry is fortunate enough to be in the coolest industry I know of. I don't know of, how many people, when you tell people you work on rockets, what else can you say? I work on satellites. I do communication for the entire world. That's what you get to say to people. Who gets to say that? It's remarkable. So you guys are still lucky, because that space, what is it, the new space, what do we call the space 2.0 or whatever it is? I was on 1.0 and I loved it. 2.0 is going to be even better, and you guys get to be in the incipient phase of it all. But make sure that you're broad enough in every field to be able to take advantage of anything you get in this area, because you're going to love it. It's a 37-year career, probably going to be a 40-some-year career, and I got to tell you, it's like a blink of an eye that it happened. And you're going to have that same type of effect. It's going to be great for you. Enjoy the journey, and thank you.